Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our own craft. I am your guide, Ned Schaut, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 12 to 19, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 21st year of marriage. So yes, I am in the thick of it. I am working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by the Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skills. The role of fathers to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my friend Jake Stemo, a man with a love for life and does not hold back, living a life of adventure with his family. Enjoy listening to a man who has continued to rebel against the status quo. Jake, welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes. How you feeling, bro?
Good, man. Blessed to be here. And yeah, it's been awesome. Awesome to be here.
Okay, so in the last few hours, has there been like a dad moment, like crap hit the fan, or oh gosh, here's another thing, anything in your world in the last couple hours? Okay, give me something from the day.
That's basically been my day. Probably the biggest thing is helping my daughter launch her shop. And she's a little entrepreneur, and she's launching a curated vintage thrift shop. She's been working hard at it, but I'm doing all of the dad things, making sure things are getting hung, things are actually on the walls, and trying to make sure all the back end, and then the marketing side. So I've been literally creating Instagram account for my daughter and trying to help her market her new business downtown, little tiny shop downtown. So it's been a little bit of a whirlwind, but it's been really cool seeing her just grow into this and take some risks and invest in her own journey too. And so it's been awesome, but it's been a whirlwind among that and ministry and different events that we have going on. It's been a wild day.
Yeah, there you go. It's like you start talking, you're like, I could just keep going and going. Yeah. As we're getting on the phone, we're like 10 minutes late and I'm trying to solve Verizon issues on my end. I got family traveling. We can't call each other. It's just this reminder that there's beautiful things like working on your daughter's shop. And then there are just things that happen all the time that as dads, we have to deal with. I do want to come back to your daughter's shop in a minute, but let me ask a couple questions so people can get a little perspective of who I'm talking to here. How old do you find yourself today? Ooh, young.
I am 37 years old. Yeah, young. Yeah, I like that. Me and my wife, we've been married 17 years. And so when we were 16, we have 4 kids. And I know you didn't ask this, but giving you more than you asked for. Yeah, so married 37 years. Married 17 years. Been together since 16. Yeah, it's just been amazing journey.
And then what's the age spread on the kids, the youngest and the oldest?
Yeah, so I have a 15-year-old, 14-year-old, 12-year-old, and then we have a 1-year-old. So widespread in there.
So is there going to be more coming or what?
I mean, I'm open. So our last one's name is Israel. My wife is Israel. The 4th is our last, but we'll see.
So is a surprise planned? You go from 3 teenagers and a 1-year-old.
Yeah, that's a great question. And everyone asked that. Oh, did you have an oopsie or a surprise? And it actually was intentional. It's actually been through a lot of pain and loss. We've lost 3 babies in between. So we never planned on waiting. Our last baby we lost was baby Zion in 2020. And then we thought, man, maybe we just need to pause. And then we tried going the adoption route through the foster care system and tried adopting 2 amazing little boys. And that ended up falling apart as we were probably about a year into the journey. So a lot of pain in the midst of that. But then, yeah, just through the Lord's sovereignty, we all stacked hands. We're like, hey, we're going to have another baby. We feel like we're supposed to have another one of our own. And then the next month, pregnant. And here we have Israel David. He's amazing. Miracle baby.
Yeah, that's incredible. Incredible. All right. 37 years old, married 17 years, 4 kiddos, 1 to 15. And then where do you guys live? Where do you guys do life?
Yeah. So we currently live in Newton, Kansas, right in the center of America. So if you just put your finger in the middle of America, you'd probably hit right around where we live. We've been in this area, Wichita, Kansas area, for about 14 years. My wife's from Chicago, and I am from Wisconsin. And we moved out here about, 13, 14 years ago. So it's crazy.
And then what do you and your wife, what do you do for a living? I love and hate this question because men typically use it to size each other up. But the reason why I ask the question is couple things, but primarily when you have a 15-year-old daughter, it doesn't matter what your job is, you have a 15-year-old daughter. And then what is it that you do? The other part of it is, what do you provide value out in the world? So what is it that you do for a living?
Yeah, so me and my wife run a nonprofit organization called Presence Worship, and we train and equip younger worship leaders, musicians, singers. And so we do worship residencies where we actually bring in, majority is young adult worship leaders that go through our residency programs and live in our school. We have an old school building where we house everyone, disciple them, grow in community, and really with a focus and a vision to equip singers, musicians musically and spiritually for the kingdom. And so that could be seeing them get placed back in the local church as worship leaders. It could be on the mission field. We have worship leaders all over the world. And then it could be in the marketplace where we keep a strong emphasis on worship is work and being able to train worship leaders that may find themselves in the job place. And it wasn't what they thought they would go into when they started in the ministry, but became more fulfilling in their calling than they realized. So we've been doing that for
That's cool.
10 years. This is our 10th year as Presence Worship. Before that, I was a worship pastor in the church for 10 years. And yeah, that's a little bit of our history story. Among that, we've been full-time doing Presence Worship full-time, and which has launched us into more of an entrepreneurial journey of doing ministry, but also, just seeing the kingdom through a different lens and seeing opportunity and business and just creativity as a way to resource the kingdom. And so that's probably in a lot of ways what value we bring to. I think that was your second question, is a lot of creative thinking and discipling and training young people to be amazing kingdom human beings, worshipers with their whole lives. And so I feel like that's what we've given our lives to. And it's been incredible. Just an amazing journey.
Love it. Dude, thanks for sharing. And that creative entrepreneur spirit obviously passed down to your 15-year-old daughter. So talk to me about her coming to you or you and your wife, or what did that look like for her to go, hey, I'd like to open a shop? What was your response? And then how did you come alongside her?
Yeah, so she definitely caught it from us because any of our staff, any of our friends, people around us they just know that we have a pretty big yes on our lives. People ask us to, go somewhere, do something, lead something. If we feel the peace of the Lord, we're all in. And so we've lived that and even just embedded that into our kids and our family. So our kids have a big dreaming vision, yes, on their hearts and lives. And so we've been all over the world, traveled the world with our family. And so in Newton, where we live, it's a small town of 20,000 people outside of Wichita, which is about 600,000 people. We're like 25 minutes outside of town. But there's this little doorway shop that I saw came up across the street from the coffee shop I go to pretty often. And for 6 months, I was like, man, that would make just like the coolest something. So knowing me, I'm like finding out who owns it, how much it costs, like what is it going to take. At the same time, my daughter's overhearing all this, and she had shared, she's super creative. She's an artist. She draws, but she also got a sewing machine last year and she started making clothes and putting different things on different clothes. And yeah, just started to get this dream in her heart to, hey, one day I'm going to open a shop, or one day I'm going to have my own like little shop. And so I came to her and was like, hey, like, what do you think about this little shop? Like, and found out it's $175 a month rent, and the utilities are $25. So I'm like, okay, like, I think you could do this. And then the next like day or 2 days, she had already been dreaming up a business plan and had she had named it. She had literally planned it out and everything. So I was just like, okay, we're going for this. Let's just do it. And so we got a hold of the owners, signed the lease, helped her build a business.
How fun.
Yeah, dude, it's been awesome. She's built a spreadsheet, inventoried every piece of her product. And so she's done a lot of work and invested a lot of her own money to, find curated vintage clothing at like estate sales and thrift stores. And then she's going to repurpose it for other people.
So when does it open, or is it open already?
It opens Thursday, September 18th.
Let's go, dude. Oh man, how awesome. I just think having you dream it up and then just to go, you know what, that small investment or whatever, it's $175, $200, whatever, the amount that she's going to learn through that process, how incredible. And then that you're getting to do so much of it together, like building this trust and this relationship and like a whole different conversation with your kid. Dude, kudos. Really cool. What's the Instagram so we can all go follow it?
It's Heaven Sent Vintage, Kansas.
Okay, dude, love it. Okay, I'm sure this will come up more, and the theme behind this is already showing, but in your opinion, what's the role of the father? We're seeing some ways that you're showing up for your kids already, but if you were to talk to a new dad and he's, oh my gosh, I'm about to be a dad, what would you tell him his role is?
That's an amazing question. And for me, when I think of the role of a father, I think of being present. I think of someone who is there as a guide and as one that is going to lead by example and make decisions and honestly make an example of what it looks like to boldly follow the Lord with a whole life. And so when I think of the role of myself in my kids' lives, that's what everything comes back to. What is the example I'm setting before them of what they're going to follow? And thankfully, I've had an amazing dad who's set me up to win. And my dad is just incredible, peace-filled, humble man. And so I've just learned a ton from my dad, and that's been amazing to let that drip into my family and help me lead my family.
When did you embrace fatherhood? So you became a dad around 22-ish, right? 21. Okay, so you became a dad at 21, newly married. When did you embrace fatherhood? Was it the day that you heard you're going to be a dad? Was it the day baby was born? Was it when they started walking? Was it later? When did you personally go, this matters deeply and I really want to embrace it?
Man, I feel like it actually goes before we had our first kid. When I was 18, me and my girlfriend at the time got engaged, and I went through probably the most transformative time in my life where I, for the first time, truly felt the love of the Heavenly Father. And it changed my life to go from pursuing my own dreams and ideas of what I wanted for a life and pursuing a life at 18 and 19 that was, what does the Father want my life to look like and be like? And that was more a question of who did God create me to be? And so I had these wrestles for the first 2 years of our marriage of these questions of what it looks like to be a dad, what it looks like to be a husband. And we had a little bit different of a journey than most. And we went to Bible school to be tribal missionaries in Mozambique, Africa. And so we were on this trajectory to be on the mission field. And so in that, the Lord took me through a journey of just complete trust and reliance upon him. So fast forward to having our first kid, Akea May Stemo. And we were living with my wife's dad just out of Bible school, raising support to be missionaries, and a pretty weak spot to be having a kid, bringing someone into this world. And we look back and it was like the best time of our lives. It's just like complete dependency on where God had us and just faith in where we were going. And just, I look back now and I'm like, we were crazy. Who would let us bring a baby into the world? And now I'm like, man, that was just such a sweet time of just, I was a musician, so I was playing to provide for our family. I'd lead music at a sandwich shop for 2 hours a day. And then I'm working at this church, and it was just crazy, but I'd make so much money in tips. It was like crazy seeing the provision that would come. And yeah, it was just a wild journey, but
I want to go ahead, finish that thought. Okay. So many thoughts. And it's like, this is going to become like a conversation more than an interview for this, I think is okay. So if your daughter came to you in 3 years, right? And so I'm asking this because I think maybe I, as a, let's just say a like middle-class American or male or whatever, have certain beliefs that I think maybe need to be rethought of. So here's the question. If your daughter 3 years from now is like, yo, dad, I'm getting married. The dude I'm marrying plays guitar at the local shops, and we're going to live with you and we're going to have a baby. What's your initial response to that? And here's why the couple of like cultural things I want to bring up is my first thought is I need a man to support you on your own, whatever, which my belief on that, yes, I believe that, but I moved out at 18 and never went back. And I don't know why there's some sense of pride in that, but like I live in Hawaii now and I see families thriving because they're living together, more multi-generational. So I'm starting to be like, hey, I would love to be able to support my kids especially if God's calling them, I hold that a little loosely, but if God's calling them to something or there's this plan or they're moving, I want to be open to other things than just this kid graduates high school, goes to college, learns to make a couple $100,000 a year and buys his own house on his own. Okay. I gave you a couple of my thoughts. What are a couple of your thoughts?
No, so there's the side of me that just knows me and I'm like, dang, what were people thinking? Like they just trusted me. But then there's the side of me, and my kids bring this up often now because I have 2 teenagers that are nearing the age of 16 when I started dating.
Yeah.
The woman I married, and they're like, Dad, we're mature enough, we're old enough, and what if we get married when we're 18? And the initial reaction is, no, that's crazy. But on the other hand, I think what I'm learning is it's actually maybe more crazy to just go with the flow of what things should be, because the culture in the world has set things in a certain order of do this, go to college, get this degree, get this job, buy this house, live in this area. And one of the verses, that are super just near to me is this Romans 8:15. And maybe this plays into one of your questions you asked on your earlier, but just what would people say about you if you died? And I feel like this is so key is Romans 8:15. And Eugene Peterson wrote it this way. It says, the resurrection life you receive from God is not a timid, grave tending life. It's adventurously expectant, greeting God with a childlike, what's next, Papa? And that translation and that verse is probably one that hits me again and again. Is am I gonna walk with God adventurously expectant, trusting Him with my family, with my life, with all that I have, or am I gonna walk in fear of what could happen, or the lie that I'm not going to have enough, or just, we pray for our kids, spouses often. And it's like on the other side of your question is this reality of, okay, if my daughter did come with a guy and was like, hey, we're going to get married and we're going to have a kid in 2 years. And I'm chuckling because this is actually like becoming a realer conversation for me as my daughter is interested in guys, and we haven't ventured into the dating realm yet, but there is an interested guy in her life. And so it's just, I'm in these conversations real time. So the last thing I would say on that is, do you have a plan? I want to ask the guy and know in my heart that he would do whatever it took for my baby girl. And that's the biggest deal. Is not like, I think of myself, it's not like we were just like, hey, we want to live at home and just get as much as we can from my parents or her parents. And no, it was like we were on trajectory and had a plan and a goal, and we were locked in on where we were headed.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. So that kind of lock, that is helpful. And I think for any dad, it's okay. Yeah, you're not like, yeah, bro, my plan is just to every day wake up and adventurously wait on Papa in the sky. You know what I mean? You're like, no, it's both end. It's I have a plan. I'm open, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to go swing the hammer every day while also expectantly leaning in on God. And I think sometimes that can be the disconnect for young people, or especially like Christians, missionary style, is like this sitting around. And what I'm hearing from you is, one, there's no sitting around. That doesn't mean we're overly striving and fearful. We're not fearful. We're working. But then also the heart of the man for your daughter is I am fighting for her. So if I got to flip burgers while I wait for a plan or while I pursue, I'll do anything. And I think that's what I would love to see in our 18, 19, 20, 30-year-olds today is like, not, hey, how are we going to pay rent? Let's flip a coin for who goes to work. It's no, you're the dude. You figure the responsibility in my mind's on you. So now, okay, I also have teenage daughters who are entrepreneurial, like leaders, like I can live. So I'm wrestling right now with the expectation on women to be more than a mother. And it's like, how do we put this pressure on our girls that they have to be both? You got to be a lawyer and a doctor and an entrepreneur and a mother of 5. As you're stepping into this and your daughter is already like entrepreneurial, where do you find your kind of conversations or thoughts around this going?
Yeah, I think it's actually knowing the heart of your kids before you step into any of this. And like, I've had very intentional conversations with my daughter, knowing what she wants to be and who she wants to be. And that is her first desire. She wants to be a mom full time. And she's had an amazing mom, and she looks up to her mom and says, I want to be a stay-at-home mom that loves on her kids, and she's got creativity and adventure and all of these things. But at the core, at the end of the day, like, her dream is to be a stay-at-home mom and to have a family and to love her kids. And so I think in those conversations, still being able to help them steward the creativity that's in their heart and the dreams in their hearts to do even the other things like open a shop. But I think it comes back to who are you created to be, and like what is placed in your heart, and knowing that as a dad and being able to then steward that and lead her in that. And even with who she was going to marry one day and what they value, and do those values align with the values that she knows are in her heart.
So let me ask you this, and just as dads try to navigate this, because I do think our kids, okay, first off, at the core, you said know your kid's heart. And I think that's a father's opportunity and responsibility, is to really know your kid and help them see their talents and giftings. Okay, so I just want to get your opinion on, okay, kid, you were born, you are loved by me, you are loved by God, you have a white blank sheet of paper. Go do whatever you want in this life. Or the flip side, God has a plan for you that is, oh, shoot, I hope I don't miss it. Is it to live in Wichita, Kansas and have a vintage shop my whole life? Or it's like, I'm constantly like, am I doing the right thing? So where do you find in that kind of tension between the two? Because I think kids can get stuck growing up being told God has a plan for you. What's your thought on that as you communicate that?
No, I love this question, because I feel like in some ways, the Western church has stunted our youth with this very question, because both extremes are really hard, where you're just like, hey, just go be awesome. Here's a blank slate and do whatever you feel like your heart. And to me, that's not in the Bible. Like, fathers and leaders were meant to shape and point arrows where they were supposed to go to be effective. And so then on the other hand, you have this, real conversation of, there is things that God placed only in you, that he made each person very unique, very different, very like the most intrinsic design ever is in humanity. And to think that you would maybe settle for something less, that you don't have that in you to create or to lead or be a part, or, and that could be as, I'm not saying like company or whatever, it could be a family, like that you are just lead a family in such a special way. And I think we've over spiritualized that conversation of God's will or God's plan to the point where young people don't end up doing anything for God because they're waiting around for the word or for the direction or the finances. And the reality is, most of the time, a lot of these young people, and I know my kids, have heard from God, and words or through the Bible, things have stirred in their hearts and they have confirmation on something. And most of the time it's they didn't act on that, or we don't act on it, and we're asking for another thing or another word or another. And I've been saying this often to probably our staff, and then even we're just in the midst of a lot of launching and events and things we're doing, and that take a lot of faith and finance. And I told our team, I said, let's not be afraid of being the answer to our own prayer. And sometimes we're sitting back praying, saying, okay, we need this and this, Lord. And he's, yeah, I've given you this ability. Like, why don't you step out and work, and I'll provide everything you need? And that's really where it's a little bit different ministry model. But for me, that's a huge position for our organization as Presence Worship, to say, hey, like, God could provide through just fundraising and funds, but also let's not be afraid to step out in different work opportunities that he's going to provide.
Yeah. He gave you hands and a brain, so use them. So just to end this kind of thought, and then I have another question for you, is I think we can use, I love how you said we can over spiritualize it. I think we can overthink it too. And having kids, I think I have a better understanding of God's heart towards us, because it's like you and I serve as that father to our kids. And I think what you're doing with your daughter right now is a great example. It's not that she had to have this particular thrift shop or vintage shop, but you saw creative space in her. You came to her with an opportunity. If she said yes, great, let's go and grow in it. If she said no, it's not, oh shit, your life's ruined. You didn't do the plan I had for you. And I think it's just this constant, like, us understanding that same dynamic that you and I have with God. Like, he's probably bringing us those similar opportunities to, hey, Ned, you're really good at this. Jake, you're good at this, or whatever. So I think if we can understand our opportunity with our own kids, it helps us understand the way that God sees us. Okay, so now, do you have any last thoughts on that? Okay. So now the other thing with the whole, like, having so I have a son, but I don't know why he just seems easier because I'm a dude, I guess. But having daughters who are like, my oldest is 19. It's like I met my wife when I was 18. I got married at 21. I had my first kid at 22. So I'm like very similar boat to you. But what's funny is, okay, so Jeremy Pryor, I don't know if you've read any of his work, but he's got some really great articles about like multi-generational living and blah, blah, blah. And I read an article to my family recently about get married early. And bro, my daughters and my wife, it like ruined the night. They were not into it. And so probably because we haven't talked about that, right? We haven't talked about that. And so you and I both got married early. I can't imagine if I would have gotten married at 30 or 40, but our culture is definitely not promoting that right now, unless maybe you're like a super subculture religious group. What is the conversations you're having in your house around this idea of getting married?
That's a great question. And it's funny, dude, I just think it's hilarious that you're asking this, because it's literally a conversation we've just recently had in our house, and specifically around my daughter, who she turned 16 in January, which is when we said they could start pursuing or dating some of the opposite sex. And so it's just a crazy conversation, which on one hand has like totally rocked me, because I'm like, I'm probably more was on your wife's side, like when my wife brought it up to me, because this conversation literally happened to me like 2 weeks ago.
You're like, I want to slow roll this as long as possible.
And I'm like, so it rocked me at first. But then I started to realize a lot of the fear that is wrapped around it. And I think that's more what I had to deal with in myself was, am I going to give way to fear of letting go of my oldest at an earlier time than I desire? Or am I going to believe for some of the greatest things that could ever happen because of her getting married young? And I think me and my wife talk about this often, is one of the greatest things we think that we were gifted because of our commitment to each other young, getting married young, was that we journeyed and have lived every large life decision and made it together. It's a gift, man, to think that we weathered every storm, we've gone through every battle, every life decision we've made together. And we look back on it and we don't take it for granted. And I say that because the struggle is, I got to find this right person. There's the one out there for me. And if I don't find the one, then I missed it. And I think all in all, like, relationships are hard. In marriage is hard, and you got to fight for it. And it's amazing. And I'm not saying hard, man, I want to quit. I'm saying, like, you just got to die to yourself every day and learn to love someone even when you feel like you're right or wrong.
You made a really good distinction right there. I think, and this is just Ned's perspective in this moment, that culturally, when things are hard, we typically just want to stop them. This was hard, so I want to stop. If something's hard, don't do it because it doesn't make you happy. And you're like, holy crap, how did we become so addicted to everything's supposed to make me happy? But you made a distinction that marriage is hard, but not like I want to quit hard, but like I got to die to myself hard. And I don't know that anybody, for the most parts, pitching that story. Like, even when I got married, I don't remember anybody telling me, hey, reconsider, you're 21. So somebody believed I could do it. But I don't remember anybody saying, hey, you're transitioning into the hardest thing you're going to do in this life, and it's going to slowly kill you. Not necessarily in a bad way. It's die to yourself. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think when I look back on my marriage and the things I valued when I was 18, 19, when we got married, are just not the things I value today. And I've grown so much more into the person I was meant to be because I have an amazing spouse. And she has pushed me to be the best version of who God created me to be. And that has come with a lot of even just dying to the things that I thought that I wanted or I thought would make me happy or successful, or you can go down the list. But ultimately, I put my trust in the Lord, but also I put my trust in my spouse, in Micah. And she's just an amazing wife who has pushed me to go after every dream that I have. That's the only reason why I'd say we are where we are right now. And even why I can have that conversation with my daughter and not freak out is because the journey we've been on has been weathered now for 20 plus years in being together. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, it's good. It's good. But tell me about why you have the two flags behind you, the meaning of the both.
This is even a funnier conversation. So I'm actually at my friend's shop right now where we're recording. So I do some video work and marketing stuff, and my friend this is like the raddest like car shop, and it's an indoor car dealership. Can I show you really quick? And so this is his brand, his logo. And so basically he does all
like European kind of stuff.
Yeah. And it's legit, man.
So behind you was a Britain flag and American flag, right? And yeah. What's funny is right now I'm teaching my son civics. And so we're going through like American Revolution. And so I'm like, okay, cool. What's going on? Oh, but then, hey, check this out. This is actually cool. So I'm taking my son to Boston next week for a work trip. And then just randomly, there's this car museum there, and they're doing because my son's entrepreneurial, and he loves cars. He saved up and bought himself a 2-seater BMW for his first car. Okay, so this kid's funny, right?
Oh, come on.
We're going next Thursday night at this car museum. They're doing a conversation or something it's called the $1 Million Middleman, and it's about the man, I forget his name, who started importing all those cars to the United States, very first started importing them. So just like links up. That's cool. Okay, so back to fatherhood. We talked about the role. We talked about you embracing fatherhood. You mentioned your dad, but I would just love to hear what's one thing you appreciated about your dad, and then what's one thing you wish he did differently. Although you maybe wouldn't change it, I think it's important for people to know that when your kid's 37, they're going to have an opinion about you.
Yeah. No, that's so good. So say that one more time, the first one.
What's something you appreciated about your dad, and then what's something you wish he did differently?
My dad, like I said earlier, my dad's incredible. And I think what I appreciate most about my dad is his humility and his just consistency. My dad is the most consistent, faithful man and very just like peaceful. And it's just crazy how I didn't realize how much I honored that and appreciated that until later on in my life. And which kind of leans into the second part, because when I was younger, I would always I always felt like my dad maybe just didn't have a zeal or a passion, or like we did things together, but it wasn't like my dad was always just this peaceful constant, if that makes sense. And so it was never, my dad was never this like high and low lows type of guy. Not saying that we didn't hit those moments, but my family, we didn't grow up very wealthy, or we were probably under middle class. And so it just the constantness of my dad, that's just so amazing to me. And so with that, I was like, sometimes I was like, man, I just wish it was like my dad was like this big personality, but now I just come to appreciate just the constant, like, faithfulness of my dad.
Yeah, shoot. If at 80 years old, my kids say I was peaceful, consistent, those would be pretty incredible qualities to have reflected. Where do you think his peacefulness came from? Obviously, it sounds like he's a steady dude in general, but this sense of peace, where did that come from?
My dad definitely is a really strong believer. He got saved when he was 21 and just started following Jesus with everything that he had. And that's when my mom and him got married. And he's the only believer in his family. He comes from a full Catholic family, but it totally changed him. It was just a night and day difference. And he gave everything for his pursuit of following the Lord. My parents were missionaries for a short time in Guatemala, and then my dad came back and started a painting company and owned a painting company for 20 plus years. And yeah, it was just, my dad was a tradesman his whole life. I really think the consistency and just the peace that he walked in came from just his own journey with the Lord and just waiting on him and following and not trying to be someone he wasn't.
Yeah, man, I just want to give a shout out. I grew up in church, and I just remember like missionaries coming through, being on stage and sharing their story. And you're like, dang, that's so awesome. That's what I want to be, or whatever, right? We glorify it. And that's awesome. Really good. But I also want to just shout out to the tradesman who's been showing up in a community for 25 years, treating people right, building good relationships, having conversations, giving jobs to people, doing good work. You're probably never going to get pulled up on stage to share it. But if you were going to ask a community, hey, do you know your dad's name is Bob? Oh my gosh, he did, this. Having a reputation in a community, like frankly, we need more of that. And if we had more of that, we'd probably need less missionaries. So I just like to give shout outs to the dudes who are getting up every day, making the world go round. Jake, if the podcast is Fatherhood Field Notes, you sharing your life, open up your field notes to us. The mantra is rebel and create. Now, as men, we want to be warriors. We want to fight against something, but not just to be destructive, to create something in its place. So if you were on a small scale, like I'm rebelling against phones at the dinner table to create family, or I'm rebelling against X, Y, or Z, what are you rebelling against, and what do you hope to create in its place?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. And I think we as a family, myself leading this, are rebelling against the status quo of just the American dream. And then specifically more on a ministry level, rebelling against the lie that you can't because you don't have. And so in some ways, two things: the American status quo, the American family, have a job like 9 to 5, come home, eat dinner, go to bed, rinse, repeat. Not saying that those things are bad, but I think for our family, we've chosen a completely different path. We homeschool our kids. We travel the world. We just took our whole family to Israel in May for 4 weeks, did 4 countries in 4 weeks. And we did ministry on the road, everything in different countries. And part of that is we have positioned, some people are like, man, that's like my dream to do that. And we have chosen to say, hey, we're gonna live our dreams and go for it rather than wait for our dreams to happen to us. And so I don't say these things to say, hey, your choice in the way you're living is subordinate to what we've chosen. But I am saying that if you have an unction and a dream in your heart and you're sitting back on it, like maybe this is the thing you need to hear to just be like, go all in and you won't regret it. If you have that in your heart and you have the thing inside of you that's saying, hey, I wish I could do this with my life. Life's short. Go all in now. And for us, that has been the thing that we've rebelled against, is being stagnant and sitting back and waiting. I said this early on the podcast. We are an all in, like we have a bold yes and we go for it. And so that's a value that I want my kids to see in us. They've actually all taken big steps of faith, and my middle son's gone to Africa with me, travel, like all of our kids have traveled, and they've all taken ministry steps of faith. They're all learning how to work hard and to make choices. And I say we've done this a little different because we've chosen to homeschool our kids, which gives us some flexibility, but it also is hard work too. Like we gotta work hard to do the things that we want to do and chase after and go after. Does that answer your first question? I don't know if it hits your second question.
Yeah, no, it's clear, right? You're rebelling against having to fall in line with whatever the American dream right now is supposedly supposed to mean. I actually would say you're actually living the American dream. I think the American dream was that we could live freely and do what it is that we wanted to do with our time, money, and beliefs, and not sit behind a screen and just talk about what we want to do or what other people should be doing, but actually go live your life. And so to me, it's like I wrote down the American dream, like it's in a lot of ways died to do what you want. Like we're slaves. Shit, we could get into it. It's like I feel like in a lot of ways we're just brick makers, right? We just have big screen TVs and phones. So we are in all of our debt. We're just tricked into being brick makers when there's an opportunity for freedom, what you're doing. It is a different kind of work, though. It is. I might not be able to binge watch 10 hours of TV a week if I'm going to choose to homeschool my kids. I only homeschool my son, but it is a different kind of work. But it's like, what do you want? We could go down a rabbit trail with that, but do you have any thoughts on it before I ask you my last couple questions?
I think the thing that we are creating, I think, is a new way forward and an example. And so I would say this is really important for the ministry and the organization we lead, is we have set an example for young people to not wait to pursue their dreams. And I'm telling you this just because this is what people have said to us, and we've actually have testimony of this specifically for young couples that have kids, where they're saying, we can't do this because we have these kids, or we can't have kids. If we have kids, then we can't do X, Y, and Z. And so I feel like what we've rebelled against is that lie, to create a new way forward where people look into the Stemo family and they're like, that looks crazy. How are they doing that? And we're like, dude, we're just all in, man. There's been hard work, provision, like where you're willing to work hard, like the Lord will provide. And if he is inviting you into something, we're in the midst of that right now. Like we're taking 23 worship leaders. My son's coming with me to Washington, D.C. for a 50-hour worship event that we're doing with a bunch of other ministries. And it's crazy. You're gonna take 23 worship leaders to your whole school to DC. And it's wild how, if you're willing to work hard, it's not that crazy. And we'll be there a month from today. Yeah. So it's just, I think, creating a new way forward, that in a picture of what a family truly on mission looks like.
Yeah, man, such gold. I love the life that you're living. I love the approach, the mindset. The continued words from you is like hard work, hard work, hard work. And I think we've missed that. Like work is an awesome thing. If you can do good work, and it doesn't matter what it is, but if you can do good work, there's a sense of it's okay to be tired. It's okay to have a little bit of stress. Now, if you're overly striving and burning yourself out, that's not what we're talking about. But like putting in hard work it gives us, especially as men, it gives us like a sense of like pride and respect for ourselves. Okay, dude, we're wrapping up here, but I do want to ask this question. Whenever I have a believer on the show, I'm starting to ask this question, like, and it's clear already, but I just want to bring it up, is how are you passing your faith from this generation to the next? And I know it's come up, but maybe if you could bring us together with like you and your wife's thoughts of how are you passing forward the truth of what you believe, to your kids, and then you want to see it in your kids and your kids.
I've thought about this a lot of family legacy. Like, what do we want to be known for and pass down? And I'll share a couple things just to close this out because this question's so important. And one of the things I've done is defined as we're a whole family in ministry on mission. And I've defined what worship is. We run a worship ministry where most people think it's training musicians to worship. And I've defined worship for our family. And worship is a whole life response to the revelation of who God is and what God has done. Worship is a whole life response to the revelation of who God is and what God has done. I'm not reading it from a screen. I know that. And it's a life of faith and trust. And that's what we're passing down to our kids. I brought that up multiple times on this of just like I believe our kids are seeing the example we set and live, and they are responding. It's a response. And we actually train and teach our kids what a life of worship looks like. That's the biggest thing. A couple practical, more smaller things for me. I'm a musician songwriter, and I'm specifically writing. The Lord's really shifted me to think about writing songs that leave a legacy for my kids and my grandkids. And I didn't realize the importance of this, but the Lord actually spoke to my wife about this the end of last year. And she had a dream that I wasn't stewarding my songwriting gift. And she came to me and said, "This is a hard thing to say, but I feel like you're not stewarding your songwriting gift." And the Lord really started to speak to me about there's a generational impact for what you write down and the songs you pass down to your kids and your grandkids. And so that has taken a different weight. I released an album in 2015, 10 years ago, when we launched our ministry. And I focused the last 10 years on helping other people release their own music and record music, songwrite. In that, I've written dozens, hundreds of songs, but I just haven't really pushed it. And so this year I really felt like the Lord was like, you need to write a generational thing. And so me and my son's got a song. We're going to release an EP coming up that we're recording. My son wrote a song on that, and I'm going to put one of my other songs on that. Just thinking of the songs of our family. The worship industry has got really caught up in this songs for the church or for the industry or CCM. And I feel like the Lord has rerouted my thinking and saying, no, this is a generational sound and song for your family to pass down from generation to generation. Yeah. There's a couple of things I could go off on family legacy in the kingdom, but maybe we'll do it another time too.
I just want dudes to hear this too. What are some gifts that you have that you can be passing down to your kids? And this has been real for me. Like, I have one son, he's 16, and he was just last year's school was just such a joke. The kid's doing nothing at school is a waste. And I'm like, I've got a couple years with this kid. And so I brought him home, and I am a business leader. That's what I have to pass down to my kid. And so I've got business trips coming up this year. He's going on all of them. And we're homeschooling, learning about how to be a business leader. And does he have to do it my way? No. Does your kids have to be a musician your way or do it? But you're passing your gift for your family down. And I think that as dads, we all have stuff that we can pass to our kids. It doesn't just have to be out in the marketplace. What are we giving to our kids? So, Jake, I'm going to ask you a final thing in 1 second, but any last things that you want to share before we jump off?
No, man, this conversation's been awesome. Yeah, just love what you're doing, man. It's incredible.
Dude, you are awesome. And it's these little side things like, oh yeah, we're writing music, putting an EP out. Oh yeah, we went to Israel for a month. There's all these things that we probably could have spent an hour talking about. You're an incredible dude. You are all in, right? I think like we can really sense that you are living a life all in worship, which is in response to knowing that you're God's kid and you're happy to be his kid on the playground, right? Just like enjoying it. So, dude, just keep being that and just keep being that and letting people see it. And I just, dude, massive gratitude to you and who you are. Here's my last ask of you. I don't think men bless other men enough. Basically speak life into each other. As fathers, we have such an opportunity to speak life into people we come in contact with and our kids. So if you were to if I said, Jake, what's a blessing it doesn't have to be a prayer, but how would you bless the men listening right now? What would you say to them if you could see thousands of faces right now and go, hey guys, I want to say, boom, what's the blessing you'd give to them?
I just want to say thank you for your sacrifice and your time and the things that you do that no one sees and no one knows you do, they matter. And that's what purity is, like the things you do when no one's looking. And so I just want to say thank you. I'm just so blessed I've been changed by that in so many men's lives and dads' lives and fathers' lives. Just thinking of the things that you do when no one's looking that literally make the biggest difference. Thank you for that.
Love it. Jake, thank you, my friend. I look forward to our paths crossing again in the future. And I just speak a bunch of life, dude, into your daughter's shop that's going to open up in a week. And it's just going to be such an amazing experience for her. Dude, I love it, bro. All right, my friend, until next time. I just so enjoyed the conversation, the passion. I felt like Jake and I could have spent hours talking. His pursuit of life, his relationship with his wife, his relationship with what the meaning of marriage and family and legacy is. It felt so natural. It felt so real. One of the things that I wrote down that I'm going to just like wrestle through a little bit more is this idea of the American dream. What are we saying that it is? What are we making it? We literally get to make it whatever we want. So what does that look like? And I love the way that Jake is leading and loving his family and his kiddos. What an incredible conversation, incredible man. If you are enjoying these conversations, 2 things you can do for me is 1, write a review, and 2, send it to a friend. Help spread the word that fatherhood matters. If you've got a great guest or have a question or a thought you'd like to share with me, shoot me an email, ned@rebellandcreate.com. Thank you, all you dudes, for listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guide, Ned Schaut. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. Much love to you. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.